supination and pronation. What happens commonly is the radial head gets stuck posteriorly and doesn't have any anterior glide to it. First thing I'm going to do is palpate. Well, actually, let me show you the other trick first. The other trick is to palpate for ulnar motion. We said you would put 2 fingers, one on each condyle, one on the olecranon, have them bend their elbow to 90 degrees, and that should create an equilateral triangle. Okay? This mechanical joint does. But a lot of people, you'll find one side, one leg of the triangle, is shorter than the other. It's an indication that the ulna has been tilted one way or the other. It's not sitting in that trochleum the way it should. Okay, and we'll show you a maneuver in a moment here that'll take care of that. Before we look at that one, I want to look at the one for the radial head. So I'm going to palpate the radial head. And the way I do that is first to locate it. Sometimes you'll have to locate it from the front, come down here in the antecubital fossa, and palpate on the outside for that groove right in here, this little dip between the capitulum and the radial head. You'll feel a joint there. Then follow it around to the back until you're on the posterior part of the radial head. Then as I stand behind the subject, that's with my medial hand. Okay? Then I'm going to take my other hand and I'm going to extend their wrist and fingers. This is really important. Hold them up tightly. Okay? And then I'm going to pull back on their hand and wrist, and I'm pushing forward with my thumb simultaneously to see if that radial head will glide anteriorly. I'm always looking for spring, or for glide and spring. And the head that doesn't move, it's going to be abrupt and stuck, and I won't feel any spring there. Okay? The other thing you can do to find the radial head is roll the wrist like this, and sometimes you'll feel it roll under your finger so you can palpate it. But you want to end up on the posterior aspect. That's why I often stand behind the patient for this. Pull their wrist up, wrist and fingers up into extension, and then push with your thumb to assess for anterior glide. If it's there, you leave it alone. If it's not, you can restore the glide. And here's the maneuver. You take them in very much the same position, okay? But this time, if my intent is to do a manipulation, I'm going to bend their elbow. Notice I'm not releasing their wrist, I'm holding their wrist, but all I do is slightly flex their elbow, and then very quickly with both hands, I bring this arm back and I push this thumb forward. So mainly this is going to occur at the thumb, and I get one rapid snap forward, like that. Okay, so flex them just a little bit, push forward.
It looks
Okay?
painful.
So that's going to drive that radial head forward. Sometimes you get audible, sometimes you don't. So what do? You come back and reevaluate. When I push, is it gliding? And then that'll determine whether you've been successful. Okay? If you didn't want to do a single thrust, you could use lighter force and do repetitive motion, but it's going to end up being more irritating for the patient. It really will. To sit there and try to push and bounce on them like that, just a quick thrust simultaneously. The thumb and the end point of the wrist and hand elbow extension happens at the same time. Boom, at the same time. It's mostly about thumb pushing forward though. Bring it, snap it back like that. Okay? Okay with that? Yes.
Can you demonstrate this on a person?
Sure. Who wants to volunteer? Okay. So I'm going to, this is what I do with the patients. I like to operate behind them. You can be standing or seated, it doesn't really matter. So for palpation, I'm going to sit behind him here. I'm going to find his radial head. A couple times I said you can come anteriorly, roll their wrist. You'll feel that round radial head right here between his capitulum and the radial head. So I've located the radial head. Look how further down it is. It's not up here at the joint line. It's going to be down here. And then I put my thumb, my medial hand, thumb behind it. I take his wrist and fingers. I want you to do half a turn that way for me. Wrist and fingers like this, and really extend his wrist and fingers back like that. Keep that tension there. And then for assessment, I'm going to push it forward and see if it glides and springs. Does that hurt you? Any tenderness?
No.
It's not moving. Okay?
It's not moving?
It's not. No. It's not gliding forward. Okay? The maneuver then would be a quick pull and thumb forward at the same time. Would you mind if I did that maneuver?
That's
Or would
fine.
you rather I didn't?
You can do it.
Okay, so let me show you. I'm here, I'm gonna take them into that same position. By the way, you wanna keep their forearm supinated like this. Don't turn them over, or you put more stress on the elbow and can injure it. So, we got them back here like this, and then simultaneously, I just get them loose. There you go, like that. Come back here, and he's moving nicely.
Huh.
Okay? You didn't have any problems
I
to
wish,
begin with.
wish everything was that simple.
Yeah.
It's not that much force.
It looks worse than it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't look that bad on that guy.
Yeah.
Hey, you got it. That was perfect. We lost the patient, but it was a good maneuver. Okay? We all right with that?